Is SpaceX going to be able to bring the cost of space travel down by 100 times less than what it is now? Let's get into it. So we found this article on how SpaceX is going to lower its cost by 100 times, and it's kind of exciting. Let's get into it because I'm kind of excited to discuss this. What's going on here?
Yeah, Charlie, this is actually a really cool thing that they're doing here. So this article is kind of giving us a summary of what SpaceX has done in the past as far as creating reusable rockets that reduce the price to orbit.
Okay.
So you can see on this graphic where you're looking at this falling cost to launch, that costs have been kind of coming down over time. And as SpaceX has been getting more reusable rockets,
That's crazy.
Getting more efficient with building them, and in the future here with Starship, they're going to reuse not only the lower stage, but they're also going to reuse the upper stage. That's really going to drive down that cost to orbit.
So basically, space travel is going to be almost as cheap as flying in an airplane? Is that?
Well,
okay.
We're still using a lot of fuel.
Okay.
But the whole idea of how you reuse an airplane after, you fly it across an ocean, turn it around, refuel it, check a few things, and get it back in the air. We're trying to do that with rockets, and SpaceX is very close to achieving that goal.
That's nuts. So it sounds like maybe Mars might be here soon.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So there's a couple of things that are really cool about this. So first of all, you're exactly right. We're getting closer to being able to send payloads to Mars, and we're also getting closer to being able to support a civilization on Mars. But this also has some very cool elements to helping life here on Earth.
Okay.
So one of those things is because the cost of payload to orbit is so low, we can continue to build our satellite constellations like Starlink, for example. And so what that will do is that will enable us to have cell coverage all over the Earth, high-speed internet, even in the most remote locations like we have right now. But this will make it even cheaper because the cost of maintaining that satellite fleet will go down substantially.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool, too. So you don't even think of I never even thought about how this rocket being cheaper actually affects us in pretty much everything else with regards to technology.
Exactly. Yeah, so everything you use, like your phone, internet, and all that can be brought down. And also, it starts to bring us to space tourism becoming cheaper. It would also bring the potential for maybe high-speed transit on the Starship. I know Elon Musk has mentioned this in passing, where basically we'll launch a Starship, land on the other side of the Earth, and a journey that used to take 3 or 4 hours on a Concorde, which is the fastest passenger jet ever built or ever in service. Instead, now that takes 30 minutes.
Wow.
And so this low cost orbit here is starting to make, and the rapid reusability is starting to make a lot of those discussions that were purely hypothetical much more realistic now.
That's exciting. And if we look at this chart, like the cost for launching rockets has pretty much stayed pretty stagnant. Maybe it's gone down just a little bit until about 2010. And that's where we see it start to drop off dramatically. And is that when SpaceX was actually starting to figure out their whole process and stuff?
Yeah, that's a good point, Charlie. So yeah, what you can see here is everything where it looks fairly flat was just getting better manufacturing processes, but we were still disposing of the entire rocket. So you look at the Russian Soyuz, you look at the European Space Agency, ESA's rockets, all of those are fully disposable rockets. And so you have to build a new rocket every time you launch. SpaceX revolutionized things because they can reuse the lower stage on most of their flights. And so that rapidly brought down the price because we're seeing on that graph, majority of the cost is upper stage and propellant.
Oh, wow.
What this article is pointing out now is Starship is fully reusable. And because of its fuel mix, it's actually pretty cost effective. And we can also use it, refuel it on Mars, for example. And so what that means is this rocket program will become even cheaper with full reusability and the size advantage of Starship, because Starship can carry substantially more payload than Falcon 9 can.
That's exciting. So, I've heard of some people talk about getting into potentially mining asteroids.
Yeah, that's just one more cool thing we can do. So you're exactly right. So with this low cost orbit, we could theoretically send a mining mission to an asteroid, bring that material home, and reduce the cost of metals here.
Now, we got to first figure out how to get out that far into space, right? But the fact that we could do that would probably, it would mean that we have so many more materials to work with, which means that the cost of everything would go down, and that would be pretty amazing. Are we about to enter like a super futuristic age? Is this going to be pretty cool?
This will be very cool, but you're not going to see it happen as fast as you think you're going to see it, because what we have is one of the tools. We have finally achieved a somewhat cheaper cost to low Earth orbit. Using those tools, that opens up a whole realm of cheaper spacecraft, mega space stations, moon bases, and Mars bases. But we've only achieved those first steps at this time.
Okay. So we'll see where it goes in the future, but sounds pretty promising, and it's pretty crazy that they were able to land that rocket on those two chopsticks. What was that device called again?
So the greater device is called the maxilla, and then the chopsticks move in around the rocket as the rocket is landing.
I see. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So this is the first rocket that SpaceX has ever made that will actually hover. The Falcon 9 won't. You have to power it up and then reduce momentum, and then let it basically touch down at about zero velocity. But the super heavy booster now can actually come in, hover as long as it has fuel, and then lets the chopsticks just slowly close around it. So even if there was like an issue with a chopstick, for example, maybe the actuation motor got a little behind, we still wouldn't have problems like you would maybe if you're trying the same thing with a Falcon 9, because you can just sit there and hover until the chopstick is ready to completely close and support the weight of the rocket.
That's so crazy. I love that. I love seeing this. This is exciting. Sounds like space travel is going to get more and more exciting, and we'll see where it goes from here. Don't forget to like, follow, and leave a comment in the comment section, because we want to hear about what you think about space travel, about the cost of space travel going down, and about what the future holds. Bye for now.